victory for Victor Wemby, not suspended. He'll be back out on the court, and we'll talk a little baseball. AJ Pierzynski is going to join us. We'll get his thoughts on the season so far, and can the Chargers finally live up to the hype? We'll figure it out. Yahoo Sports Daily starts right now. She is Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we are stacked. We've got you covered on everything you need to know as we go through the entire landscape. And let me say, as always, right now, Caroline, we start with NBA playoff action because last night could have been historic. It could have been a big night. It could have been the night that the rest of the NBA world will remember forever because OKC sweeps LeBron. They sweep the Lakers. They bring out the brooms. A fourth quarter comeback versus the Lakers. Yet again, they separate at the end of the game. And now all of a sudden we're looking at it trying to figure out, is this how LeBron's career comes to an end?
No, LeBron's career is not coming to an end. We know LeBron pretty well, right? We know that LeBron maybe has an appreciation for the theatric and the dramatic. We know, LeBron wants to take every opportunity that he can, both for himself to kind of live in the moment and to allow fans to, enjoy the LeBron moment. I can't imagine that LeBron wouldn't allow the opportunity for himself and for the basketball world to truly soak in the last of LeBron, the last trip for LeBron to Cleveland, LeBron's last trip to Miami, LeBron's last this, LeBron's last Thursday when it's raining, whatever it might be. I also can't believe everybody loves LeBron on Thursday when it's raining.
I'm sorry, that hit me. That one hit me. Go ahead.
That's the lead on First Take. I also don't think LeBron is going to allow himself, his illustrious career, one of the most decorated in the history of the game of basketball, to end on a sweep. I can't believe that. We were discussing this earlier today. The tickets last night, it was you could get in for $90 off the street going into game time. I can't imagine if this was actually LeBron's final game that you could just get in for less than $100. Like there's no way that with all of this, with the game at 10:30 at night after probably a lot of people on the East Coast went to bed, in a game where tickets were relatively cheap, that's the LeBron James' last game? No, that doesn't sit right with me.
After the game, he said, I don't know what the future holds for me. I've done it all. I've seen it all. And to me, that's the perfect response. And I know sometimes we talk about, coach speak or athlete speak, not saying anything. I think that this is the honest, expected result from somebody that is not going to let emotion make one of the most important decisions. Like walking away from the game is such a jarring moment for people that have been doing this their entire life. And we spend so much time, whether it's LeBron or Aaron Rodgers or anybody else, trying to figure out when somebody's supposed to leave the game without acknowledging that the game is all that they've really known since they were knee-high to a grasshopper. Trying to figure out how to live life without that is such a huge moment. LeBron shouldn't let the emotion of getting his butt whooped by OKC influence that decision. The only real way to do this, in my mind, is to take time. And maybe it's because as I get older, I realize that that's the way life works. As you get older, you do start to understand, okay, if I don't have anything to prove to anybody and I don't care anymore about the legacy conversations, which LeBron has made clear he doesn't. If I'm just sitting around saying, what do I want to do? What I don't want to do is make that decision right after a loss. What I don't want to do is make that decision right after a win. I want to let all of the raw emotions of the moment die away. And once those have died, then I can turn around and say, okay, what's right for me? What's right for my family? What's right for my body? When we hear him say, I've done it all, I've seen it all, there's no lie, Caroline. I don't know what other answer we expected from LeBron other than him coming up to the microphone and saying, I'm not leaving. And even if he had that Wolf of Wall Street moment where like you got the whole room fired up, we'd still spend today saying, are we sure, Laura? Like, this is what we do. We question absolutely everything. I won't question what I think was a fair and reasonable response of, I don't know what the future holds, because right now, today, his only focus has been trying to win. He shouldn't know what the future holds as we sit.
My old radio partner in Nashville, his radio partner before me was a former general manager in the NFL. And he always said, he would have players come to his office the day after they get eliminated from the postseason or the day after the end of the season. They would say, I'm done. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't let the grind of another offseason, the grind of another season, the travel, the amount of just, the amount that I've told that it takes on your body. I can't do it anymore. And he would always tell them, take some time. Take your family, take your kids, go to Cabo, go to Turks and Caicos, go relax, play some golf. Take some time for you and yourself. Because after you just get bounced from the season, you're probably thinking it's fresh on your mind about how hard all of it was mentally, physically, emotionally, especially when you're 41 years old, especially when you're largely carrying a team and you still get your butts whooped. But once you take some time away, once you relax, you start to get that competitive drive and that competitive edge back. The further you are removed from the grind of the season, the more and more you're reminded of how much you love it and how bored you're going to be without it. Turks and Caicos is great and all in the off season, but I don't think LeBron, who spent his entire lifetime grinding in the game of basketball, wants that just quite yet. So I think that's probably what LeBron is feeling a little bit of. Man, like I have a lot to process. Physically, I have a lot to, my body has a lot of healing that I need to do. Mentally, I'm taking on a big time load. So maybe LeBron just needs some time away. But I can't imagine a world where LeBron will let himself step away from the game of basketball like this.
Yeah, and there's no easy way for the Lakers to replace what LeBron means to the team right now. Like part of this equation, when we talk about coming back and what it means for LeBron, if you're the Lakers, you desperately want LeBron back. I'm sorry, because you don't have another way to at least remain as relevant as you are right now. There is no easy fix that's going to change the fact that they don't have the depth to match OKC. There is no fix that's going to change. There is nothing that the Lakers can do this offseason, to me, that will put them even in the same stratosphere night in, night out as OKC. So once you acknowledge, like Steve Kerr did with Golden State, that you're not competing with the best team in the league, now you got to say, what's the best version of ourselves that we can be? The Lakers are never going to be the type of team to rip it down to the studs and do a massive rebuild. So knowing that, the Lakers really, I feel like, have to be patient. They have to allow LeBron to go through his entire process, because even though I don't think the Lakers currently constructed win a championship the way they're currently constructed, they don't have a better shot without LeBron, and they're not going to be more relevant without LeBron. Like, I get they're the Lakers, and we'll always talk about everything they do, but this version of the Lakers, as currently constructed, can't just easily move on from LeBron James. So weirdly, I think we're in this situation where both sides just need a little bit of time. LeBron's going to need some time to just sort of figure out what's right. And then he's, I'm sure, going to go to the Lakers and say, how are we going to get better? And they're going to present a plan. But that plan looks wildly different, Caroline, without LeBron in it. And without LeBron in it, there isn't a solution, I think, that puts the Lakers closer to a championship. So if you're LA and you're LeBron, I think the best situation here is to take a big, deep breath and then look at it and say, how can we maximize whatever basketball we have left together?
I think the Lakers are also faced with kind of a tough decision. I mean, this is a pivotal moment for this franchise. Marcus Smart's contract is also expiring, and based off of what you've seen from Marcus Smart in the postseason, I don't think the Lakers would necessarily be jumping at the bit to bring him back. So that's, I mean, not a much smaller question than LeBron, but a question nonetheless. But let's just say, because I believe wholeheartedly LeBron is coming back to the Lakers. I think if LeBron truly wanted to win one more championship before he retired, he would have left last season. But he didn't do that. He came back to Los Angeles because I think he just likes being in Los Angeles. At this point in his career, his priorities might be different, and that's okay. Whatever your priorities might be, where you're comfortable, where you can make the most money, where you can win a championship, that's your prerogative. I think he wants to come back to the Lakers, and I think if you're the Lakers, you don't really have a chance. You don't really have a choice, excuse me, but to bring LeBron back. What are the Lakers going to do? Say no thanks? I don't think so. But let's just live in a world where LeBron James actually does want to exercise free agency, where LeBron goes on a free agency tour of summer 2026. And if that is the case, can you imagine? My goodness, everyone's going to lose their minds. But I think GMs across the league would have a really difficult kind of conundrum that they're faced with, right? Let's just say LeBron wants to go to insert whatever team here. That LeBron says, no, I want to win a championship somewhere. I want to go to the Knicks. I want to go to the Pistons. I want to go, no, wherever. You pick your poison. If you're a general manager across the league, how do you say no to LeBron James?
I don't know how, but you have to have the discipline to do it. Like, how many teams are a LeBron James away from beating OKC right now? And I'm going to keep putting OKC up in here because we're spending so much of this time talking about the Lakers because it's LeBron. But to be clear, the reason we're talking about LeBron and the Lakers today is because OKC knocked the snot out of them, as they have done all year long. An OKC team that is just better than the rest of the league. So every single team right now doesn't need to be worried about LeBron. They need to be worried about how do we beat OKC. And when that's the math you do, how many teams are a LeBron away from toppling OKC? What are we talking about here? So, and if you're LeBron, if you're going to one of those teams, where can you go where you're not also going to just listen to constant yelling and screaming about ring chasing or whatever people are going to yell about next? So, to your point, Caroline, like if you're the Knicks, are you a LeBron away from beating OKC? And would it even work in your system? If you're the Spurs, are you suddenly trying to add LeBron? And is that the way LeBron wants to win a chip anyway? I don't know. That's why, like, as much as we love to throw out these dream scenarios, when you actually apply a little bit of logic to it, I think if we stop speaking from the heart and start speaking from the mind, you figure out that LeBron with the Lakers is probably the best solution for everybody. I mean, if he goes to the Cavs, it's a great story, but the Cavs with LeBron are not better than OKC.
And you bring up the Knicks. If you're the Knicks, let's just make the assumption that the Knicks get to the NBA Finals, which I think that's kind of a fair assumption to make, but also I've made a lot of assumptions in the NBA postseason, and I was flat out wrong. But let's just live in that world. If you're the New York Knicks and you get to the NBA Finals, let's say you lose to OKC in 5 games, feels like a possible scenario. Why? Why would you go out and bring in LeBron James when you were just in the NBA Finals and what you're doing is working? Clearly, they have a formula with Kat and Brunson and Mikal Bridges, with OG Anunoby or without OG Anunoby. Like, whatever the secret sauce is for the Knicks right now, it's working. Why do you disrupt that? If you're any sort of contender, the Spurs, the Knicks, any team that we feel like has a championship ceiling, why would you go and upset the apple cart when you clearly have a formula that is working? Inserting LeBron changes things. And we also have to bring up the question of how much does LeBron want? LeBron James is making $50 million right now for the Lakers. If I'm the Knicks, I'm not necessarily signing up for a $50 million paycheck for a 42-year-old player. I know it's LeBron, and I know that LeBron has largely been carrying this team in the postseason. I know LeBron has taken, youth serum over the last month or so, but still, like, I'm not paying him $50 million. So I think that before we get to the point of what do these other teams in the NBA want, I think we have to answer the question of what does LeBron James want? Because I cannot find a realistic scenario, Fitzy, where, anything makes a whole lot of sense, both for LeBron and that respective team outside of the Lakers.
We've mentioned Cleveland a few times. We should mention Cleveland last night. An epic game, an epic second half, particularly against the Pistons. They tied the series at this point. We are locked in 2-2. Donovan Mitchell was full Spida, man. See what I did there? Did whatever Spida can, especially in the second half. Absolutely epic. They win 112-103. Where are we at this point? Are we willing to say Cleveland is going to win this series now, Caroline?
I cannot go there. I can't go there in this series. I mean, as electric as the Cavs were, James Harden in the first half, Donovan Mitchell in the second half, James Harden actually coming in the clutch in the final couple of minutes of that game. And also the Cavs are getting some contribution off the bench as well. I mean, the Cavs have been a great bench team throughout this series. So it's not an anti-Cavs sentiment. It's just this is a series, and the way that the Pistons played in the first couple of games of this series, the way the Cavs have played in the last couple of games of this series, this is a series that feels like it has all of the makings of going 7 games. I think we also have to point out how much the Cavs have struggled on the road this series. In order for the Cavs to win this series, they're going to have to steal a game on the road. So I can't go there quite yet. This is a series that the Cavs have signed, sealed, delivered. It's theirs. No, 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 no. I think that this is going to go at least 6, if not 7 games.
Yeah, and look, Donovan Mitchell was incredible. You see it, 39 points in the second half. But if you've ever gone to the craps table and you've had a great night, the next time you go to the craps table, you're like, oh, this is how I'm going to pay my bills this month. I'm just going to play some craps, and then you lose everything right away. That's how last night's game felt to me. Like there was a heater. They went on a heater. When you go on whatever it was, a 24-point run in the third quarter where you are just bucket after bucket after bucket. Look at some of the highlights. You just saw a highlight that was 56-52, and now you see 73-56. That was an unbelievable run by the Cavs. That was a show-stopping night by Donovan Mitchell. Are you going to bank on that being the case every single time? No. There was a meltdown defensively. The Pistons got in their own way. It was inexcusable basketball, and the Cavs took advantage of it. Credit to Cleveland for the way they played in this game. Absolutely. I can't make sweeping statements off of something that was that drastic. To me, I don't think that 24-point run, that swing in the third quarter, I don't think that was a statement that is replicatable by Cleveland or by the Pistons. So we'll see. I don't know if it's replicable or replicatable, but I do know that I'm in on a 7-game series here, which, by the way, is going to be beautiful to watch. One thing we also know, Wemby going to be back on the court. Coming up next, we will break down the flying elbow drop from that man and whether or not the league made the right decision.
There were rumors that this was going to happen before the draft, that Jadarian Price was going to end up going to the Seahawks at 32. I think you can make a very strong argument that you could take Price as early as the 106. That might end up getting you in trouble, but I don't know if I feel that strongly about some of the other players in that range.
There was not many other depth charts like across the league where there's just a smooth sailing spot to that running back one position.
For what it's worth, this will be third down at 25, just as it was in the first half. Neal, deep ball, got Williams, touchdown! 37 yards, Neal to Williams. The Wheelers back within 4.
That's the speed of Keon Williams. And Neal hooking up with him, looked his way the entire time. And when you give Keon Williams man coverage, he could beat anyone.
The truth here is this is a very far delineation from where the top of the quarterback game is right now, physically.
Correct.
You know, when you look at, you call the top 12 quarterbacks, everyone's got some sort of extreme physical trump card.
This ain't Taylor Green.
Part of the problem to me with this pick is you saw exactly where the physical limitations hurt Ty Simpson last year at Alabama.
Simpson is a pretty good athlete, but I'm not going to run design runs with him because you'll get crushed.
Sunday Night Football on Yahoo Sports Network. And Cook the squib kick. Tomas across the 10, cuts it at the 15, at the 20. One guy to beat, inside the 10, cuts it back 5. He's in! He's in! Touchdown, Nighthawks!
Victory for Victor. There'll be no further discipline for Spurs star Victor Wembanyama after he was ejected for an elbow in Minnesota on Sunday night. You see that from Shams. We've all seen the replay. Again, he collects the ball. He collects his thoughts. He thinks about it for a second, and then he goes full WWE with a massive elbow drop. So, Caroline Fenton, let's start with the most important here. Did the league get this right with no additional suspension?
No. The league did not get this right. Now, there are times when I feel like NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, whatever governing bodies of respective professional sports leagues, when they do something that I don't agree with and I am irate, I am vocal about it, I can give you a 3-point thesis about why I thought they got it wrong and why they fumbled the bag so bad. I'm not there with the Wemby thing. I don't think that the league got it right, but I'm also not about to get up on my soapbox and question the integrity of the association. I'm not there. I can see why the NBA got to this conclusion for a couple of reasons. One, Wemby does not have a history of this. And we talked to Brian Scalabrine about this yesterday, and he pointed out the same thing, that I think that your history, it matters here, right? Your legal history matters in the court of law. I think your history can matter in the court of the public opinion or the court of the NBA. That we don't that Wemby is not Dylan Brooks. Wemby is not Draymond Green. Wemby does not have a history of being an overly physical player, so the league can at least extend a little bit of grace of, okay, this is your first offense. Don't do it again, but it's your first offense. I think also too, Fitzy, we need to point out the elephant in the room. We need to point out what might feel obvious, and that is Victor Wembanyama is a certified superstar in this league. Victor Wembanyama sells tickets. Victor Wembanyama gets butts in seats, and Victor Wembanyama makes games far more interesting with him than without him. I have to think. Now, this isn't me, tinfoil hat theory, some sort of conspiracy, but I do have to think that that was a data point, and that was something that the league considered.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be a data point. The league has broadcast partners. Like this isn't about tin hats. This is about, being logical adults. If you look around, you've got somebody that's got no prior offenses. You've got somebody that is beloved. Everybody thinks he's just awesome. Everybody wants to be friends. Like all of these things matter. Likability matters. There's this concept in society that everybody should get benefit of the doubt. And I often say that benefit of the doubt overall, no matter what we're talking about, is sort of earned. And you earn the way that you're treated based on the way people perceive you, right or wrong. That's just the way it is. If you choose to play the villain, you are going to be treated as the villain. If you choose to play the baby face all the time, you're going to be treated as the baby face. Wemby has no priors on his record. He's coming in with somebody that, is overall beloved, and he's rising as a superstar. When you are an MVP candidate, you're often officiated differently on the court. We know that. We accept that. We just realize that's part of the game. Do we not think that that's also part of the way that discipline is handed down? This isn't going to be like other instances of other players throwing an elbow, because it shouldn't be like other instances. Look, I would have suspended him. If I ran the NBA, I would have suspended him for a day. If I was commissioner, I would suspend him for a game and said, hey, we just can't allow this sort of behavior. Am I up in arms over the fact that he wasn't suspended? Not at all. It makes sense when you look at the body of work, when you look at everything. And then when you do look at the fact, like, my God, last night, if you wanted to watch the Lakers get blown out by or lose to Oklahoma City, you had to go to Amazon Prime and watch it late at night. The NBA understands that they have put games all over the place, that you have to hunt to find them so often. Are you going to hunt to find this Spurs-Timberwolves game if there's no Wemby in it? Or are you going to hunt to find the Spurs-Wemby game when you know that Wemby's back on the court and you know that the Timberwolves are going to be angry about it, that there's going to be a revenge factor, there's going to be bad blood between everybody? The soap opera storylines are beautiful here. So, yeah, I think you get the grace that you've earned in this situation if you're Wemby. And if you're the league, it's no harm, no foul. If you turn around, you say, hey, he was ejected in early in the second quarter. This is essentially a one-game suspension. We're not going to make a bigger deal of it. And if he does it again, then we can come down even harder on the second time because we were light on the first. When I just take all emotion out of it and just look at it, it kind of makes sense. Again, Caroline, I would have suspended him for a game. But if we're looking at the why he wasn't suspended, I just can't be up in arms about why he's still on the court, because all of the whys seem to check boxes that honestly make sense.
And also, Wemby missed a majority of that game. It's not like Wemby got tossed with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Like, he got tossed early in the second. So maybe the league could look at it and say, okay, well, he's already kind of essentially served a one-game suspension anyway. The reason why I would have suspended him one more game is to send a message and to, I don't want to say set a precedent, because setting a precedent sounds awfully dramatic and very set in stone. But it would be sending more of a message of like, look, we won't tolerate this. Like, we will not tolerate throwing bows in the middle of an NBA postseason game. So the fact that the NBA didn't send that message, the fact that the NBA said, look, you can throw some bows and you'll miss about, a half and or 3/4 of a game, but, you can come back to play the next one. I do think that levels up the level of physicality in this series. And this series that's already been chippy, and a series that's already been pretty physical, I do think that this sets a different tone for the rest of it. And I don't want to see anyone get hurt. I don't want to see punches thrown. I don't want to see, I do kind of a little bit want to see bench clearing brawls, just a little bit, because we're all a little bit of psychopaths. But I am kind of here for it. I don't want to see anyone get hurt, but I am kind of here for leveling up a certain level of physicality. It's the postseason. Why not?
You and I share a love of postseason hockey, so I think it makes sense that it's like, hey, occasionally a brawl is good.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point, though, and it's one that can impact the rest of the series. The league has spoken. Now what do the refs do? Right? Because how much physicality are they going to allow to have happen? Both sides of this. Because Wemby, look, even the coaches came out afterwards defending Wemby for defending himself. The argument was he did what he had to do because the refs were allowing him to get mugged on the court, right? That was the argument in support of, I want my star player to stand up for himself. You see the quote there. I'm glad he took matters into his own hands. He's going to have to protect himself if they're not. All of this continues to be statements made to officials. And I go back to something that on the broadcast I heard a couple of weeks ago when they were asking Reggie Miller about road playoff games. And he said players aren't affected by road environments. Officials are. So now I'm just thinking about the fact that you've got more and more statements to officials about, hey, you know, you've got the Spurs coming out saying you caused this. I mean, that's essentially the Spurs are essentially saying officials caused this reaction because they didn't handle the game the right way throughout the course of the game. And the NBA is coming out and saying, yeah, you know what? Most of that game counts. We're fine. Now he gets back out on the court. How do the officials treat the rest of this series becomes, I think, one of the most important parts of this series. If you want to be physical with Wemby, you have to be aware of how the game is being called. Otherwise, you're going to end up with the free throw disparity that you can't handle, and you're going to get yourself in a bad situation. So I think the most interesting part of this isn't that Wemby's going to be in the game. It's that the officials now are going to have it somewhere in the back of their mind. Okay, this has got an explosive. We can't let it get explosive again. We got to make sure that Wemby doesn't lose his cool. They're going to watch him with a different level of magnifying glass. But I think they're also going to watch the way he's played to try and prevent getting into that situation in a way that can alter the physicality for the rest of the series, which could alter the way this series plays out, Caroline.
I think it definitely could. And it's a fascinating thing that you bring up in terms of officiating, because I just really looked at it from a player perspective. One of like, look, the Timberwolves might be looking at it like, seriously, you're going to come for Naz Reid like that, and your NBA, your league prize isn't going to serve a suspension? Like, that's going to piss them off. I'm sure they're talking about that in the locker room, as they should. Use every single motivating chip that you have in your arsenal. And then on the Spurs side of things, is there a galvanizing kind of factor of, we got our guy back? I really kind of looked at it from the player psyche, from the locker room perspective, but from the officiating perspective. Do you think the league maybe like sent a memo to officiants of, where to call it, how to let physicality go to a certain extent? I don't know, but the officiating aspect of this, I think, is incredibly fascinating. The home court advantage side of this is incredibly fascinating, because in a series that going into it, I thought was going to be a blast, I think had the makings of going full 6 or even a full 7-game series, now gets that much more fascinating. And the Thunder side of this is also interesting, because the Thunder just swept the Lakers. The Thunder are chilling, sitting back and enjoying, the fruits of sweeping this series. They've punched their ticket to the conference finals. They can sit on their couches and kick their feet up, fill up a bowl of Cheetos, and just enjoy. While the Spurs and the Minnesota Timberwolves go throughout a physical 6-7 game series. That also affects the calculus of how we view not just this series in the postseason, but how we view the Western Conference Finals as well.
Yeah, and the longer these things drag out, the more Jalen Williams has the chance to get healthy for OKC, and then we see what an actual fully healthy Thunder. But you're right. Like, I've got this image in my mind of the Thunder like having an ice cream social party where they just watch two teams bang it out in physicality that is absolutely through the roof for a series that goes 7 games. And yeah, well, I mean, I crave ice cream. Like, if you wanted to invite me to a watch party, I would require ice cream. They're back there popping bonbons, they're eating sundaes, and they're watching a physical series. Like, they're back feet up eating ice cream while those two teams are just absolutely demolishing each other night in and night out. And to your point with the officials, here's the one thing I would say. I won't pretend to know. But I had the opportunity a couple of years ago with Yahoo to work with Danny Green, and I was talking to him at the Final Four, and I said, in the playoffs, how does it work? In the playoffs, how much are they talking about officiating? And he said 100% that the league, as a former player, he said the league is always reaching out to officials in the middle of series and saying, hey, you got to watch the physicality with this guy. Hey, pay more attention to this. Like, he was a big believer with his knowledge and information that the communication to officials is substantial and it's constant and it's real time. So I think there is something there. And Draymond here saying, y'all call for my career for less. Look, we're not going to get a Draymond. Look, I get. Calm down, sit down. The amount of acknowledge that part of the reason you're perceived that way is because of who you've been as a player over and over and over again. If Wemby has been, if Wemby drops an elbow 87 times over the course of the next 8 years, then we'll start to call for his career too. Calm down. But this is proof that Wemby is in rarefied air. I think this is proof. The fact that he wasn't suspended proves that Wemby is one of the flagship superstars of the NBA. He is one of the bankable talents that the league turns around and says, hey, not that guy. Like, if there was any question about what level of superstar status Wemby is on, I think this is clear proof from the league that he is top shelf, that he is absolutely at the top with those biggest names. So I think, Caroline, that is one of the biggest takeaways in this elbow gate, is that Wemby is the superstar that we've been trying to see if he would become.
And we would all be naive to not acknowledge that superstars get preferential treatment. It is what it is. So I think we're seeing that unfold here with Wemby.
All right. From greatness on the court to greatness covering Major League Baseball, we're going to talk to AJ Pierzynski next. We'll get his thoughts on all things MLB coming up next. Yahoo Sports Daily.
Right back to work. TJ Edwards and Paxton DeLorette going blow for blow. Edwards. Oh, what a blitz pickup. Edwards to the end zone, and that is another touchdown. Third down. DeLorette throwing, coming back to make a great catch. Thomas Owens, the best receiver in the history of the franchise, just added another highlight to the reel.
Does the result even matter at this point? Like, is it a victory just making it to the fight and having a good performance, or do you really want to win as well?
I really want to win. I really want to win. Sitting here is a victory. I get a victory every single day. Walking out to that cage is going to be a victory. Having that first punch is going to be a victory. Every little victory. But no, I'm not. I wouldn't have taken this fight if I thought I couldn't win.
I think for the Raptors, what did they learn here? They learned they're in a great spot. And then Scotty Barnes, welcome. You have achieved stardom. That's what this series was for Scotty Barnes. He became a star. The dude hit clutch bucket after clutch bucket, made big plays as a playmaker as well. He was too big or too quick, depending on the guy he was being defended by. He was incredible.
Myler gets the snap. Myler extends the play, throws on the run, finds Bruce. Bruce lowers his head, reaches for the end zone and scores. Great pass by Myler, better effort by Arlen Bruce. And this Arizona offense is grooving. They retake the lead with 9 seconds left in the half.
I got to admit, I owe the White Sox an apology. I was walking through the airport in Chicago not too long ago and saw the White Sox bar, and I thought, that's not fair. At least let them not have to remind the misery of their fans while they're flying. And all of a sudden, here we are. It's just 19-21. Only 4 teams in the AL have a better record than the White Sox. For more on that, we welcome in MLB analyst for Fox Sports, member of the 2005 Chicago White Sox World Series winning squad, AJ Pierzynski. AJ, thanks for the time, man. How surprised are you by just what the White Sox have been able to accomplish this season?
First of all, I love that you guys previewed me with the tuxedo picture. I had to buy that tux in about a day's notice. So thank you for reminiscing about that. It was awesome. But how surprised? I'm not surprised that the White Sox are where they're at because I knew they'd be better than where they have been the last 3 years, which isn't hard with the 100 losses. I'm more surprised the rest of the American League is so crappy. Yankees obviously have gotten off to a good start. The Rays are playing unbelievable. And then Sacramento, the Athletics, I still want to call them Oakland, other than that, it's not really a very good American League. So it's kind of interesting that they're alive in the playoff race with where their record is. Now, can they sustain this? I think they can hover around 75 to 80 wins at the end of this year, and they're entertaining to watch at least, which is a huge step up from where they've been. But, I mean, I think the White Sox have a chance to hang around, and maybe they'll make some moves if they'll spend some money. But Murakami's been great. Colson Montgomery hits home runs. The rest of the lineup brings energy. Miguel Vargas has kind of figured it out a little bit. If you haven't seen Davis Martin pitch, tune in when he pitches. He's really, really good. Sean Burke has been really good. So I think that they're better. I think they're better probably than I even thought they would be when they get Kyle Teal back. Hopefully soon as their catcher, they'll even take another step. But it's in the right direction. And for the first time in a long time, the White Sox fans can smile and say, hey, we're proud that our team is going in the right direction.
You know, you said it, and I've said it so many times. Sometimes just being enjoyable to watch is a good threshold and a good standard to get to. Just get butts and seats and people have fun watching your team. But with that being said, you mentioned, right now they're in the postseason race, a lot of baseball left to be played. But what would success necessarily be for the White Sox this season?
I think being in a race for longer than April is a success already. They're already into May, so it's already been more of a success. I mean, you have to look at the last 3 years. They've lost 100 games. 2 years ago, they lost 121 games, the most games of all time. So listen, White Sox fans, I get to talk to a lot of White Sox fans. They're just enjoying the ride, and they're enjoying the fact that we can tune in and actually say, hey, we have a chance tonight, and we're having fun, and they're playing the game the right way, and they're fun to watch and tune into. That's a success already. Now, wins and losses are the ultimate indicator of how good you are. But I think if they hang around and if they get to 75 to 80 wins, that's a huge success for where they were the last 3 years. So I think this year's already been a success, and it'll only continue to get better. Now, I'd love for them to go out and make some trades. I don't think they'll do it, but make some trades, bring on a little bit of payroll, and try to actually go for this, because the AL Central, I don't know if y'all have seen the standings, is very gettable. Guardians aren't doing much. Tigers have played awful the first 2 months of the year. Royals haven't been great, and then obviously the Twins aren't even trying this year. So it's gettable. That's the one good thing about the AL Central. It can turn around quickly because a lot of the teams, they don't have high payrolls, and they're trying to win on margins. And if you can beat them, you can get into the postseason.
Let's go back to something you just said, though. You said you'd like to see them make some trades. You don't think they'll do it. Why?
Have you followed the White Sox the last few years and their payroll and their spending and their desire not to trade guys at the right time? I don't know why. Maybe they will this year. They've done it in the past. I know when I was there, we made some trades that were questionable, but at least we tried. So I think, will they go for it? I hope so. I hope they'll at least try to do something to improve the team. But why won't they? I don't know. Chris Getz has never been in this situation. So a lot of times when young GMs get put in this situation, you don't know how they're going to react. I hope he does. I played with Chris Getz. Hopefully he tries to be aggressive and goes for it. And you don't want to blow up the whole farm system and all that, but at least make some moves that'll give you a chance.
I want to zoom out a little bit. We mentioned it a little bit earlier, the landscape of the AL. The reason why the White Sox are kind of comfortably in a position is because there's only 4 AL teams over 500. How does that happen? Why are we where we currently are in the American League?
Because there's no salary cap. That's why, and all these teams are just running away with it. That's why. No, it's because there's parity and teams have figured out how to win. This is why the salary cap argument makes no sense. The Mets have one of the highest payrolls, and they're not very good right now. The Rays have one of the lowest payrolls, and they're topping the Yankees. They're 14-2, 15-2 their last 15, 16, 17 games, and they've passed the Yankees and have a 2-game lead on them. The Pirates are playing better. Sacramento, as we talked about, spent a little bit of money, and now look at them. They're ahead of the mighty Mariners and the Astros and the Rangers, teams that obviously spend more than they do. So it's about teams starting to figure it out and realizing, hey, if I pay my stars at a young age, like a lot of these teams the Brewers have done, we can keep them around longer, and therefore we have stuff to build around. And then if we develop properly and we can figure out this development thing, we can compete. And teams have started to figure it out, and it's been good for the game. That's why there's so much parity. I mean, even the National League, look at the National League. Everyone thought the Dodgers were going to run away with it. The Padres are right there with them, right? The Braves have the best record in baseball, team that wasn't very good last year. Cubs on fire, right? Another team. I think actually they might have passed the Braves with all their 10-game winning streaks. So it's about teams figuring out how to win with what they have and doing it the right way. And I'm here for it because I want a chance for all 30 teams to win. I mean, not just as everyone says, oh, the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees. Well, there's other teams out there that actually really have a shot to win this year.
That being said, AJ, I think we're contractually obligated to talk Dodgers anytime we talk baseball because they're the Dodgers. So let's stick with Shohei for a second. 1 home run in the last 111 plate appearances. We say on this show all the time, don't panic, it's a long season. When do we start to get concerned about the lack of power for Shohei right now?
I think it's a combination of the pitching, because he's back pitching every 6th, 7th day, whatever it is, and the fatigue it puts on your body. You have to understand I hate to say he's getting old, but he's older than when he was pitching last time. And there is a fatigue. If you talk to any starting pitcher, they will tell you, no matter how long they've been doing it, the next day after you pitch, you're tired, you're sore, your body doesn't feel the same. You just kind of want to lay around and don't do a lot. That's why guys used to run and Adam Wainwright, a guy I worked with on Fox, he used to call it the old man walk. He'd go for a long walk just to flush the body. Well, Shohei doesn't have that opportunity because he has to hit the next day. And you see Dave Roberts trying to combat that with some more days off and giving him a little more rest. And he's not DHing when he's pitching. It's a different animal. That's why Shohei, for those years when he was doing both at such a high level, is the best thing I've ever seen. Is he the best player that I've ever seen in my lifetime? Absolutely, because he can do both. But it'll eventually catch up to him. And he's putting so much effort into pitching. He's come out and said, I want to win the Cy Young. That's the one thing I haven't won. Well, if he's focusing all on pitching, it's got to take away a little bit from your hitting. And we're starting to see it. Can he turn it around? 100%. We're 40 games in. He'll probably still hit 40 homers and have a great year. But it has to take away from your focus on hitting. Because the 1 year he just hit, we saw what he did, 50-50.
You said it. We're 40 games in. It's May. We have a lot of baseball left to be played. But when it comes to the Dodgers, it's championship or bust. So I feel like it's at least fair to bring up a championship in the Dodgers conversation. If the Dodgers win a 3rd consecutive World Series, that will say what about the current state of Major League Baseball?
That the Dodgers are really good and they reinvest into their product because they're making more money than anyone else. And they reinvested into their team. Listen, I still think the Dodgers are the best team 1 through 26. I think the Braves I think it's different this year, though. I think the Cubs have a chance against them. I think the Braves, who just took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers, have a chance against them. I think the Padres have a chance against them. It's a little more wide open than what it's been in the past. Not saying I still think the Dodgers are the best. And if you turn into foul territory, we do power rankings, and I'll keep them number 1 until someone beats them. But I think the Yankees have a chance because the Yankees are really good this year. The Rays are really good this year, as we just talked about. There's other teams in this league that can beat the Dodgers. And let's not forget, the Toronto Blue Jays were about this far away from beating them last year, and everyone would have said, oh, there's no way this Dodgers team can lose. It's baseball. Crazy stuff happens.
All right, so you mentioned the Mets earlier. Let's go back to that. Another high payroll. How do you fix them? How do you fix teams that have spent a ton of money that aren't winning?
How do you fix the Mets? Let me see. Well, they need to make better decisions. I think they don't have the pitching. They're what's funny is their pitching is good, not great. Okay, I love Freddie Peralta. He's been okay. Clay Holmes has been outstanding for them. But it's the other bullpen. McLean hasn't been as good as he was last year. He's still really good. But the bullpen has been an issue. You're showing Craig Kimbrell right there. If you would have told Mets fans we're in May and we're relying on Craig Kimbrell, they would have said you're crazy, right? Devin Williams hasn't been great. Luke Weaver hasn't been great. 2 of their big free agent signings. And the biggest problem is their offense. Where has the offense gone? I mean, Soto's doing fine, but I did their game this weekend on Fox against Arizona. Bo Bichette, who we're showing right there, hasn't gone off to a great start. Some of the other guys haven't been good. Polanco's hurt. Lindor's hurt. Brett Beatty's not doing things. Francisco Alvarez is really struggling. If I'm facing the Mets, and I had multiple people tell me this, why do you ever pitch to that guy right there? Why do you ever pitch to Juan Soto? Make everybody else in this lineup beat you, especially in a big situation. Sure, you let Soto hit a solo home run here and there, but if the other guys behind him aren't hitting, why would you ever let Juan Soto beat you ever? He's gonna get almost. I'm not saying the Barry Bonds treatment, but it's got to be close.
See, the sports broadcaster in me says Mets fans deserve better, but the baseball fan in me says don't fix them, keep them right where they are, because I am a Cardinals fan. I'm born and raised in St. Louis, lifelong Cardinals fan. I didn't have very many expectations going into this season, but where things stand right now, the Cardinals have exceeded my expectations, 23-17, but the NL Central is an absolute juggernaut. Do I have any reason to get my hopes up that the Cardinals can get back to where I'm accustomed to seeing them, and that is in the postseason?
Yes. You want to know where? Why? Because they have a guy. First of all, they have Heimblum, who I absolutely love, and I think he does a tremendous job of developing, finding all this stuff with players. I think he was amazing in Tampa. He went to Boston, did everything they asked for. They fired him because they made him trade Mookie Betts. I don't know what else he could have done in Boston. All the players you see, most of them drafted by him and developed by him before Breslow got in there. So I love Heimblum. And then, do you know where their manager went to high school? Do you guys know where Ollie Marmol went to high school?
No.
I do not.
Orlando. It's a high school called Dr. Phillips. And there's another guy on this show that also went to Dr. Phillips. So we have we hold Ollie Marmol in high esteem, in my mind at least. But he's done a great job. John Jay, Daniel Descalso, Pop Warner, Stubby Clabb, all the guys that helped the Cardinals develop. And we're showing Jordan Walker right there. What a monster he's become, right? It's finally, everyone develops at a different time. He's finally gotten freedom. He's gotten, as they always say, the runway to play every day. He's become a star. I think the Cardinals can hang in it. And also, their pitching is really good. It's young, but their pitching is really good. They have stuff. And that's one thing that can help them stay in it. Can they stay with the Cubs all year? No, I think the Cubs will win this division. Do I think the Brewers eventually keep going, who just swept the Yankees, by the way? Absolutely. They're really good. But, hey, this is something awesome for Cardinals fans. And someone that played for the Cardinals for about 3 months, I know how special it can be in St. Louis in the summer.
Oh, man, AJ, we really appreciate your expertise. You guys can follow him on Twitter, X, at AJ Pierzynski 12, two-time MLB All-Star catcher, MLB analyst for Fox Sports. Thanks so much for your time and your expertise, AJ. Got to come hang out with us again, brother.
Yeah, let me know, guys. Thanks. It was fun. I appreciate it. Oh, by the way, before I go,
Thanks,
here,
AJ.
look. Oh, you guys missed it.
Oh, there. Oh,
I always have my little Cardinals hat on.
There you go.
So
the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that is why I love the Chicago White Sox. So I hope the love is reciprocated. Got to get me one of those hats soon.
I just want to see Caroline do a whole show in one of those hats.
Yeah.
AJ, thanks for the time, man.
I do too.
They're very comfortable.
Oh, we're going to be searching for the Cardinal hat. All right, coming up next, we're going to get into some NBA trade talk, including should the Wizards trade the number 1 overall pick and the latest on Giannis.
Myler gets the snap. Myler looks down the field. Bruce caught it! Touchdown! Owen Bruce, player of the game! Perfect throw.
Yeah, that was
great
throw.
catch.
Great play at a critical moment there.
Myler gets the snap. Myler looks. It's going to be a broken play. Needs to get rid of it. He does!
Oh my
it's
gosh.
caught!
Wow.
What put you over the top to I want to go to Indiana?
I was really close to going to a couple other schools. However, the point that really cemented me into Indiana is Coach Ignetti really focusing on the development. His big selling point was, hey, I don't know, other schools are trying to sell you on if we're going to win a national championship, if we're going to win all these games. I just know one thing I can do is develop quarterbacks.
This is insane. There were people that showed up tonight with Fernando Mendoza jerseys already, so they were a little bit nervous, but nothing to be nervous about. Remember, guys, in my lifetime as a Raiders fan, only 2 other times have they selected a quarterback in the first round. We're talking about Jamarcus Russell, who's essentially Voldemort to Raiders fans everywhere, and Todd Marinovich. But at the end of the day, it has been a long time since this fan base had a quarterback they could plant their flag with. This is why Raider Nation is so exciting.
Does Orlando win in an overtime, or does this instant classic continue? Deep drop and throw, end zone, Thomas Owens. That's an Orlando overtime winner. That is the most decorated receiver in the history of the franchise. Of course, he's the one to end it.
Wizards president Michael Winger said they will at least consider trading down from the number 1 overall pick per Jake Fisher. He's insisted this is not a savior moment for the franchise after trading for Trae Young, Anthony Davis on top of the team's recent lottery picks. But certainly it looks like the trend is that things could be changing for the better finally for a franchise that, if we talked about, has been frankly irrelevant in the NBA mindset for a generation at this point. Caroline, we know from what every person has told us that covers the draft, that covers college basketball, that covers the NBA, this looks like today as we sit pre-draft, like it could be absolutely a generational, iconic, once-in-a-lifetime draft. So with that being said, and the Wizards having the first overall pick, should they consider trading down?
Yeah, of course. And I think that this is a smart statement to make publicly, because saying that we are open to trading it does not mean that you are going to, does not mean that it's inevitable. What it does is opens up your phone lines for GMs across the league to pick up the phone and say, hey, what's it going to take? What am I going to have to give you in order to get the number 1 overall pick? Now, there might not be a trade package that makes it worth it for the Wizards, but there might be. There might be a team desperate enough to just give up a king's ransom for that pick. So what the Wizards are doing is at least giving themselves options, at least opening the door for a absolute haul that could help them build their team for the future. Now, I think is hilarious is saying, no, we got Anthony Davis. We're good. Okay. But I do think that there are 2 different kind of trade packages at play here. Like you said, everything that we have heard over the last several months is it's DeBonsa and Peterson and Boozer and Caleb Wilson, all of these great players at the top, players that have the potential to be great. So I think there's one trade package that exists that could keep the Wizards within swinging distance of getting any of these 4 guys, if they view all of these guys at least close enough to equal. So let's just say, hey, there's a team out there that's picking in the top 3 that thinks that AJ DeBonsa is their guy. Not Boozer, not Darren Peterson, only AJ DeBonsa. Well, that team that could be picking 2nd or 3rd would trade up to 1, and the Wizards could say, yeah, we'll go back down to 2 or to 3, and we would still be able to get one of these guys that we all view as, future superstars in the league. That's a smaller trade package. That's a, hey, we'll take a couple of players and a 1st-round pick, maybe 2 first-round picks in the future. I think there's a second trade haul and a second asking price that takes you without or outside of swinging distance of one of those guys. For that would be multiple 1st-round picks, multiple players. So I think there's 2 different tiers and 2 different types of trade packages that we're looking at here. But if I'm the Wizards, I'm not getting too far out of the top 3 or top 4.
This is, I think, such a smart approach by the Wizards to make it clear that they're open for business just to find out what that looks like. Now, if the question is, should the Wizards trade down, and they're trading down past the top 3, my answer to that person would be hell no. They shouldn't get out of the top 3. But if we're talking, because for me, for my money, I think when we're talking about the top 3, we're talking about a different set. Maybe some people want to expand it to 4, but I think those top 3 of AJ DeBonsa, of Darren Peterson, of Cam Boozer, like those are the 3 that sort of stand out to me as the upper echelon. So if I've got them on my draft board, all graded equally, if I'm just looking at them saying, hey, on a scale of 1 to 100, I've got them all in a 96. Well, if I don't care and Utah cares enough about keeping AJ DeBonsa in state that they want to move up, all right, call me. Tell me what you're willing to give me. I think that that's smart roster building. When we look at what the Wizards are trying to accomplish, Trae Young is going to be a part of that. I do not believe, as much as we continue to jab at Anthony Davis, I want to be clear. I think Anthony Davis is a liability for the Wizards. He's not a strength. So they need to figure out how to get rid of Anthony Davis. Once they get rid of Anthony Davis, because he's not going to win them any games by the time they're any good, they can start really building for what they want to be in the future. Trae Young with one of these young players is a nice beginning. I think we have to acknowledge too, Caroline, like, look, a Cooper Flagg is supposed to be the most can't-miss prospect we've seen in years. How many games did Cooper Flagg win his rookie season, right? Like, Wemby was supposed to be can't miss. Well, the Spurs weren't immediately day 1 suddenly a playoff team, right? Like, we can keep going back and back and back. Luka, it took a second. It takes a second for great players, no matter how great they are, to get enough around them to win in the NBA. I can't make it make sense that you can be the number 1 overall pick and not impact a roster to the point when there's such limited size of rosters. You don't suddenly take a team from worst to first in the NBA. You do in the NFL sometimes, wild as that is, but you don't in the NBA. So acknowledging that whoever you're picking is one quality piece towards a long-term growth process that is going to take 3 or 5 years. When you acknowledge it that way, hell yes, I'm willing to listen to calls to move down, because if moving down continues to make the rest of the next 3 to 5 year plan develop better, then smart. As long as I still get one of the guys that I believe truly deserves the overused cliche of generational, as long as I believe he's truly can't miss. If I have multiple can't misses, then 100 times out of 100, I'm looking at moving out of that first pick, even though we can't even agree on a consensus. Yesterday, you and I were trying to figure out who the first pick should be. I don't think that there's a true consensus as great as all three of these guys are. So the lack of consensus becomes a motivating factor in my mind to move down.
I mean, you mentioned how Cooper Flagg was a cannot miss prospect, hands down, no question about it, number 1 overall pick. Well, VJ Edgecombe and Con Knipple have also been massive contributors for their respective basketball teams. And guess which one of those 3 teams was not represented in the postseason? Cooper Flagg's. Now, I know the Hornets were in the play-in, but still postseason, not playoffs, whatever. You get the point. So I do think, too, trading out of the number 1 overall pick, what that does is alleviates a certain pressure of getting it right. When you have the choice of a buffet of all of these great players. No, and that is making the assumption that the Wizards view these players equally or close enough to equally to move out of number 1. They might look at it and say, like, look, we're opening up the phone lines to anyone that's open to the number 1 overall pick, but we think that AJ DeBonsa is head and shoulders above all of the rest, or Cam Boozer is head and shoulders above all of the rest, whichever one it might be. But if they do truly view them as close to equal as possible, there is a certain amount of pressure that I think is on the number 1 overall pick that doesn't exist for number 2 or number 3. You know, we look at the quarterback draft just a couple of years ago. Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams. The Patriots could sit back and say, okay, we'll take Drake May. And there is a certain level of pressure that I think was on the Chicago Bears that maybe didn't exist for the Patriots, because the Patriots could let their guy fall to them, whereas the Bears had the pick of the litter. Here, number 1 overall pick, the Washington Wizards might say, hey, we're going to take AJ DeBonsa because we think he's the best of the litter. Well, what if Darren Peterson ends up being a difference maker, future league MVP, missing piece for his team? Well, then all of a sudden, that GM or that decision maker that exists for the Washington Wizards looks around and says, well, I got it wrong. There is a certain amount of pressure that pressure is a privilege, as they always say. You'd rather have the pick of the litter rather than having the player fall to you. But there is a certain amount of pressure that exists there that maybe the Wizards don't want.
No doubt. And you mentioned the 2 rookies that had the most success. I will also mention, with those rookies that had the most success, even Dan Patrick said part of the reason he didn't believe Con Knipple was Rookie of the Year was because he was, in Dan's words, the number 3 option on his team. He wasn't carrying his team, right? VJ Edgecombe, night in and night out, wasn't carrying his team. So until Washington can support whoever they're drafting will not be able to give the Herculean effort it takes by themselves to carry their team. Plenty more to come on the NBA draft right around the corner. But coming up next, the show's about to get a hell of a lot funnier. Kathleen Madigan going to join us, one of my favorite comics, hanging out with us next. We'll talk to her about the Chiefs and everything else.
There were rumors that this was going to happen before the draft, that Jadarian Price was going to end up going to the Seahawks at 32. I think you can make a very strong argument that you could take Price as early as the 106. That might end up getting you in trouble, but I don't know if I feel that strongly about some of the other players in that range.
There was not many other depth charts like across the league where there's just a smooth sailing spot to that running back 1 position.
For what it's worth, this will be 3rd down and 25, just as it was in the first half. Neal, deep ball, got Williams, touchdown! 37 yards, Neal to Williams. The Wheelers back within 4.
That's the speed of Keon Williams. And Neal hooking up with him, looked his way the entire time. And when you give Keon Williams man coverage, he could beat anyone.
The truth here is this is a very far delineation from where the top of the quarterback game is right now, physically.
Correct.
You know, when you look at, you call the top 12 quarterbacks, everyone's got some sort of extreme physical trump card.
This ain't Taylor Green.
Part of the problem to me with this pick is you saw exactly where the physical limitations hurt Ty Simpson last year at Alabama.
Simpson is a pretty good athlete, but I'm not going to run design runs with him because you'll get crushed.
Sunday Night Football on Yahoo Sports Network. And Cook the squib kick. Tomas across the 10, cuts it at the 15, at the 20. One guy to beat, inside the 10, cuts it back 5. He's in! He's in! Touchdown, Nighthawks!
Adam Schefter tweeted out, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes is on track to participate in Kansas City's first OTAs because he's obviously superhuman. That is the only takeaway. Joining us now, hilarious comedian, Chief superfan Kathleen Madigan. We appreciate her. You can see her on the day drinking tour. Listen to her on Madigan's Pubcast. Kathleen, welcome. Are you getting excited? Are you allowed to let yourself get excited for Mahomes back on the field already?
Yeah, he's a magical little wizard. Yes. And even I'll even take him till he's like 40. I'm not into the old over that, but he can go till he's 40. That's fine. As long as Andy Reid stays, we can't lose Andy. He's part of the package. So yeah, I'm very excited. I don't want them to move Arrowhead Stadium. I'm very mad about that, and I don't know how I'm supposed to get behind Kansas when I'm a Missouri person, but I guess I will. I'm not happy about it. None of us are. None of us. Nobody wanted Arrowhead moved because this is how provincial we are. We all have our parking spots. Everybody knows where everybody else tailgates. And all my friends are just like, it's going to ruin it. We don't see an upside. We just see a downside. So, but they've done it. So it's done. Yeah, there you go.
The Kansas City, Missouri versus Kansas City, Kansas beef is one of my favorite, very niche Midwestern beefs that I don't know if the rest of the country knows it exists, but it is alive and it is well.
It is.
Are you going to boycott Arrowhead in Kansas? Are you done going to Chiefs games then?
No, I don't have any choices. Originally, I'm from St. Louis, so 2 teams left my life. No other cities had that happen. And then I'm like, all right, I'll go to the Chiefs, even though Kansas City really is kind of far from St. Louis. I'm like a bandwagon person, and now they're moving. I just don't think I was meant to be a great fan. Like, everyone just keeps yanking teams and moving them, and I'll go. I mean, against my better judgment, we were raised to hate Kansas. I don't even know why. Like, if somebody goes, oh, it goes back to the Civil War. I'm like, I don't even want to Google it. I'll just hate Kansas. Whatever. I'm going. I'm spending my money in Kansas. Yes.
When you are a famous comedian, do you get first dibs on seat preference in the new Arrowhead? Like, do you just get to go in and be like, I want that one?
No. I go on StubHub and buy whatever because I never know if I can make it back from wherever I'm working on Saturday night, and I just go on StubHub and buy whatever. I did get a field pass for my nephew, who at this point in 8th grade is taller than me. So on the sidelines, all I saw were the backs of tall people. Like, I just looked at people's backs, but they took him up front because he's a kid. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm shorter than him. Like, shouldn't I get to go up there? But then again, I really, on the other hand, don't care if Travis Kelce is sitting in my living room. I mean, I like him, yay, great, you're a tight end. But, like, I don't really care about that. So I'm too old to care about that. It's like, yay, we're on the field. It's fun. It's fun for the kids.
It's always a blast. You mentioned how you're from St. Louis. I am also from St. Louis. So I feel that betrayal about the St. Louis Rams leaving the city. And I do feel like I have a very complicated relationship with the NFL for that reason. So, I mean, do you feel like, what is the relationship? Because I left my Rams fandom and I became a Saints fan. A lot of people in St. Louis, as you know, they ditched the Rams and they became fans of other NFL teams.
Yes.
What is the relationship between like lifelong day one Kansas City Chiefs fans with the former St. Louis Rams fans that ditched the Rams and became Chiefs fans? Like, is there like a rivalry there?
No, they seem to be very welcoming to all of us that could make the leap. I think a lot of Kansas City people view St. Louis as like this mini Chicago, where we're gangster, like they think we are gangster people. So they're a little leery of us. But no, I mean, even the tailgating and everything else, if you say you're from St. Louis, no one seems to care. They're very nice, very friendly. It's a friendly tailgate. Nothing weird. Like I've been to some on the road that I'm like, oh, this is kind of questionable, a little dicey. Yeah, they've said come on in, and they don't. But I can remember the days though. I used to have to go do radio live to promote a club date or whatever, and it would be at a remote thing, like a tire store or something, right? And they'd be a Chiefs rally, and I mean, there was just nobody there. They were so bad back then. So were the Royals, though. I mean, all of Kansas City was just sad. And then all of a sudden the Chiefs got good, and now we can all be happy. And so I guess they don't care if we come over, but we have kind of doubled their fan base.
So you have all this allegiance to the Chiefs, but you live in Nashville. Nashville is going to be the home of the Super Bowl 2030. In fairness, I lived in Nashville for over 20 years. Caroline lived in Nashville for a while too. So we both know the city well. It's going to be the Super Bowl host in 2030. What's Kathleen Madigan doing when the Super Bowl is in the city that she lives in?
Oh, I'm figuring out how to go, or at least I'm going to I mean, my house is only 15 minutes from downtown, but I know what it's going to be like to get in and out. I'm just going to get a room at like the Omni or something and just drink for like a week. It's going to be epic. And it definitely probably won't be the Titans involved. So I'll get to see two opposing teams and their fan bases come in like that. I go to Titans games all the time, not because, well, first of all, it's like free, but also the Titans probably aren't going to win. I just want to see the other fan base come into town because Nashville's kind of a destination city, so they fly in. I mean, if they play the Jets, there are Jets fans in every bar, and it's just fun to see how much other people care because I feel like in southern cities, it's an uphill battle against college football anyway, and then you put on top of it that the Titans are not good. Yeah, I love it. As a football fan, I'm like, great. I'm going to go down and see all the Packers fans. It's going to be awesome in the bars. So it's great.
It is inevitable. Bills fans take over Broadway. Packers fans take over Broadway. Raiders fans take over Broadway.
Yeah.
It's essentially just pick that city south. Is
Yeah.
what Nashville becomes whenever those teams come to town. But since the Titans are terrible, the Chiefs and the Broncos are not. That was just announced that'll be a week 1 game. Is that a game that you're going to? Is that must-see TV?
Oh,
for
it's already on the family thread. My brother sent it out like 25 minutes ago. Who's going? Blah, 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 blah. Yes, everyone's very, very excited. And I think the Chiefs will win that. I would put whatever the line is, I'll take the line. I love Denver, but I just think the Broncos were maybe a tiny bit overrated. How's that for being polite about that? We'll see. But I think the Chiefs are going to have their act together again. Yeah,
That is
I do.
very polite. I'm all right. So this is the most first world question I think I've ever asked anybody. But given your fandom and given the fact that your favorite team has gone to so many Super Bowls of late, have you been able to experience any of those many Super Bowls in person?
No, the only one I ever went to, how sad was this, was the Rams against the Patriots in New Orleans. And it's only because I had a corporate gig down there. And it was only because it was after 9/11. Everybody was scared to go in there because they thought it was going to blow up. So I gave my younger brother my ATM card and said, go find 4 tickets under $500. And he did it. And so we went. People were just like tentative, like, I don't know, are the terrorists going to do something crazy again? And but the Rams lost in spectacular fashion. Like they were broken. It was like, what is going on? And he wouldn't stop. Mike, was it Martz? Yes, the coach.
Mike Martz?
Why are we still running the ball? We learned nothing in the first half. Nothing. He just kept doing it. And I'm like, okay. Even the Patriot fans were surprised. Like afterwards in downtown New Orleans, they would be like, hey, we won. Like, I don't even think they believed it for a hot minute. Like it was just and U2 was the halftime show. It was fine, but I don't know. I'd rather just go to a regular Sunday game, I think. It's a lot to deal with.
It is a lot. And 4 tickets under $500. I don't think you can find 4 tickets under $50,000 for the Super Bowl now. So good on you to get in when the prices were as low as they were. You have experienced so much as a comedian and as a sports fan, going to all these different games, traveling to watch your favorite teams. What's one of your favorite sports fan memories?
Oh my gosh. It usually involves a Packer game and drinking, honestly. There's an Irish pub up there that we all get way overstimulated. Everybody drinks way too much, and somebody always goes down and misses the whole game. And it has not been me yet, I'm proud to say. St. Louis Baseball Cardinals would be the lifetime of memories. And that's when you could camp out for, playoffs. Like I was there when Ozzie Smith hit that home run, and we beat the Dodgers, I think 82, 85, 87. Like baseball would be the biggest memory because we couldn't afford, I'm one of 7. We did not get to go to football games or stuff like Blues games every now and then, but football was too expensive.
So you travel so much as a comic, and we were thinking about this as we knew you were coming on because I traveled a lot in the music business before working in sports. LeBron recently made all sorts of headlines because he said nobody in the NBA likes going to Memphis. It just isn't a fun city. For the comedy world, what's the city that you're like, oh man, like it's just I got to go to this one. Like there's got to be one. What's the city that you're like, oh, I'll go there?
I shouldn't say it, but I will. I just don't connect with Miami. I'm not one of the beautiful people. I'm not a Euro fabulous person. I don't speak Spanish. I don't really like coffee. I'm not going out at 1 a.m. It's not happening. That's when everything gets really apparently awesome. Well, a Dateline's awesome in my hotel room too. But I just don't. And I never have. Like most of us that you would work those clubs down there were like, yeah, that was weird, right? Like, I don't know. It's not a comedy city. It's models and pretty people and nightclubs. And, it's just not, it doesn't click with like a Midwest mindset. So if I can avoid it, I go to Fort Lauderdale. There's more people that I can relate to in Fort Lauderdale. Like I always joke, if you ever see me in Miami, I've been kidnapped, call my parents. It's not my thing. So, I'm not trashing everybody that lives there. I don't want it to sound horrible. It's just it's a vibe of the city. I'm more of a swamp person. I want Charleston, Savannah, New Orleans. I want crawfish and, dive bars. And I guess there's dive bars in Miami, but I've never found them. I'm always in a line with beautiful people, and I'm never dressed right. Never. I'm like, oh, God, I didn't know we were supposed to do that. Like, I was just going out to get a glass of wine, and, I'm like, probably $5,000 behind on an outfit. Yeah. So, and I don't, look at the Dolphins games. There's just not, they're not really that jacked up about sports either. Like, it doesn't feel like Chicago, let's put it that way, where Chicago feels like a giant St. Louis to me. Same Midwest people, same beer drinking, nobody's waiting in a nightclub at 3 a.m. It's not happening. So that's it.
You mentioned a few cities that you love. So what's the anti-Miami for you? What is your favorite city to go visit when you're on tour?
Well, this does not count for the shows. My favorite city as a human being is New Orleans. It will always be. I don't care how dirty. I don't care what goes on. It's my favorite city. For shows, it's hard to beat Denver's crowds. Very hard. And everybody takes a special at their Paramount. Including me. Everybody wants to because the crowds are so great. I will also argue hard for Milwaukee. I've filmed a special, and Detroit. Actually, I've filmed specials in both of those. Yep, Detroit, they're into it. Milwaukee, they're just drinkers and it's fun and nobody's rude. No, there's no heckling. They're just great. But Denver has a great reputation.
I have often said my favorite city when I was touring in country music was Milwaukee. It's the best city to party in. It's the best city to have a great show in. The crowds are amazing. I just absolutely love Milwaukee. Obviously, you're on hanging out with us because you've got a new stand-up special, The Family Thread, on Amazon Prime. What did you love about putting this special together?
I like this one a lot because I was just more prepared and had more time to deal with the questions that I don't even know the answers to, but they call me anyway. I didn't feel rushed, which was that a couple others I'm like, I'm squeezing this in between stuff and it's too chaotic. And they turned out fine, but this one was just more fun to enjoy it. Like, I got to Denver early and I have fun in Denver. I got friends and all that. So I was able to just go be a person for a couple days and have fun and drink and eat at Sam's and blah, blah. So the ease of it, I'd say. Maybe the older I get, it's just easier. I don't know. But this one was great.
You see it right there, The Family Thread on Amazon Prime. That's how you can check it out. And, of course, you can go to KathleenMadigan.com to check out the tour. It's the day drinking tour. Kathleen, huge fan. And check out the podcast, too, the pubcast, as it were. Big fan. Appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's great to see you. And when the Chiefs and the Raiders play, that is my favorite team. You got to come on so we can trash talk each other.
Oh, okay, well, let's go to Allegiant. I haven't been yet. Let's go see the Raiders play the Chiefs at the Raiders. I haven't been in that stadium yet.
You know what? I can get you tickets. So you know what? It's on me.
Okay.
We'll meet out in Allegiant. We'll have a good time. It's on.
I
All right.
wanna
Thanks,
come.
That
Kathleen.
sounds
Appreciate
fun.
you. Kathleen, yes, you can come too, Caroline. We'll make it a big soiree.
Caroline wants
as
to
it were.
come.
Thank you.
Don't leave. All right. See you guys.
Don't leave me out.
Oh, it's great stuff. No, we'll never leave Caroline now. Come on, let's go. All right, speaking of the AFC West, should the Chargers be the favorites? Do they finally get benefit of the doubt? We'll figure it out.
Right back to work. TJ Edwards and Paxton DeLorette going blow for blow. Edwards. Oh, what a blitz pickup. Edwards to the end zone, and that is another touchdown. Third down. DeLorette throwing, coming back to make a great catch. Thomas Owens, the best receiver in the history of the franchise, just added another highlight to the reel.
Does the result even matter at this point? Like, is it a victory just making it to the fight and having a good performance, or do you really want to win as well?
I really want to win. Like, I really want to win. Sitting here is a victory. I get a victory every single day. Walking out to that cage is going to be a victory. Having that first punch is going to be a victory. You know, every little victory. But no, I'm not. I wouldn't have taken this fight if I thought I couldn't win.
I think for the Raptors, you know, what did they learn here? They learned like they're in a great spot. And then Scotty Barnes, welcome. You have achieved stardom. Like that's what this series was for Scotty Barnes. He became a star. The dude hit clutch bucket after clutch bucket, made big plays as a playmaker as well. He was too big or too quick, depending on the guy he was being defended by. He was incredible.
Myler gets the snap. Myler extends the play, throws on the run, finds Bruce. Bruce lowers his head, reaches for the end zone and scores. Great pass by Myler, better effort by Arlen Bruce. And this Arizona offense is grooving. They retake the lead with 9 seconds left in the half.
The Chargers have agreed to terms with former Browns tight end David Njoku on a one-year deal worth up to $8 million per rap sheet. Spent the first 9 years of his career in Cleveland. Just another weapon for Mike McDaniel to be able to play with. And now all of a sudden the Chargers, who went 5-1 in the division last season, even though the Broncos took home the crown, are looking around saying, why not us? We've got injuries to Mahomes. We did mention earlier that according to reports, Mahomes miraculously is going to be available for the last OTAs. We'll see. But given the fact that there's so much in the air with Mahomes' health and Nick's health, should the Chargers be the favorite in the AFC West?
No. Well, all of a sudden, David Njoku is what does it for you? Do you remember? Now, you probably do because this is your division. Do you know the last time the Chargers won the AFC West? Fun little pop quiz here for you.
No, it's got to be over a decade, right?
They were in San Diego. It was 2009. 2009 was the last time the Chargers won the division. So why all of a sudden am I going to say, yeah, they should be favored to win it? I don't think, and look, I have nothing against the Chargers. I like Justin Herbert. I have nothing against this team. But I don't think that we give more of a benefit of the doubt to any quarterback and to any team that has done less. Look, the Justin Herbert and the Chargers have fallen short of postseason expectations. They haven't. It feels like they keep hitting this ceiling and they just haven't broken through it yet. Now, sure, Mahomes and the Chiefs being in the way, I'm sure, is part of that. And now with this, this renaissance of the Broncos and what Bo Nix has been able to accomplish in his short career, sure, them being in the way is part of that. But I mean, Bo Nix has done more in his postseason career in just 2 years than Justin Herbert has done in 6 seasons with the Chargers. So can they do it? Sure, because I believe in that coach and quarterback combo. And now you get Mike McDaniels, sure, there's plenty of reasons to believe why this Chargers team could win the division or why this Chargers team can be better year over year. But I'm not going to all of a sudden just give them the same benefit of the doubt that they've been given year over year over year when they haven't done anything more to deserve it.
The Chargers, I always have to preface anything I say about AFC West teams because this is where people will at me and be like, you're a Raiders fan, your team sucks, and you're biased. Let me acknowledge, I'm a Raiders fan, my team sucks. And I'm not biased. It's actually easier to justify how hard it is for the Raiders when I look around the rest of the division and I say, man, these teams are so good, it's just going to be tough to compete.
Yeah.
That being said, the next time that Justin Herbert wins an incredibly big game in his career will be the first time that Justin Herbert has had that, oh my God, clutch moment. I'll ask you, Chargers fans, make me a rip. Make me a highlight rip of the key moments of Justin Herbert's career that were in must-win game situations. They don't really exist. And I know that there's reasons why. But the fact is, we can't have a conversation about the Chargers without having a conversation about the Chargers' injuries because the Chargers are always injured. It doesn't matter who the coach is. It doesn't matter who the players are. They just always have injury issues. It doesn't matter how talented. Every single year, I sit here and say, oh my God, the Chargers are the most talented team in the division. I stand by that. When you look at their coaching staff, when you look at their quarterback, when you look at the addition that Mike brings to the offense as the offensive coordinator, I think that they are stacked. I still wouldn't bet my house on the Chargers over the Chiefs. I still wouldn't bet my house on the Chargers over the Broncos. I understand that the Chiefs and the Broncos have more question marks, but I've recently seen both of those teams answer the question marks. Every year we sit here with the Chiefs and we say, my God, they're not good enough. And all they do is win a bunch of games. Last year I sat there and said, Bo Nix isn't going to take that meteoric leap forward. We're asking too much. And all of a sudden, what did we end up with? We end up with the Broncos in the AFC Championship game in a game that, frankly, if they're healthy, they probably win. The Broncos have earned benefit of the doubt. The Chiefs have earned benefit of the doubt. My beloved Raiders suck. I will say that loudly. But the Chiefs have done nothing to deserve the level of credit we give, or the Chargers, I should say, have done nothing to deserve the level of credit we give them every single year coming into the season. So, yeah, do I think the Chargers could win the AFC West? Yes. Would I bet my house on it? Never, because every year they fall short of that expectation. And because I have yet to see Justin Herbert have that moment that will be played on the highlight reels at NFL Films for the rest of time. It just doesn't, no matter how good we think he is, the clutch moments have never come for him.
And if there was going to be any year, last year was the year. And they still couldn't do it.
Great point.
No Mahomes in your way. Because if Chargers fans want to say, oh, well, but Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, fair, valid. They weren't in your way last year, and you still weren't able to break through. And now Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs will be back. Patrick Mahomes obviously is still a question mark. Bo Nix and the ankle is still going to be a question mark, but it's not like they've gone anywhere. And I would way rather gamble and bet on Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs coming off of the injury and coming off of a year that they missed the postseason more than I would trust the Los Angeles Chargers, because the Kansas City Chiefs have earned that kind of benefit of the doubt. And because, frankly, Bo Nix and the Broncos have earned that benefit of the doubt. Prove me wrong, Chargers. But if you want to use injury as the reason why the Chargers could win the division, because Patrick Mahomes coming back banged up, Bo Nix coming back banged up. Well, your point about Justin Herbert winning a big game, the year that the Chargers can actually protect and keep Justin Herbert upright will be the first time. The offensive line injuries have plagued this team last season. So the same injury concerns that exist for the Broncos and the Chiefs exist for the Chargers as well. Even though it's not at the quarterback position, this has still been a team that's been bitten by the injury bug and is at least a fair reason to point to why they've fallen short of expectations. Those injury concerns don't just go away because there are injury concerns throughout the rest of the division.
To me, that is such an important part of this. Like, I no longer care about the why for the Chargers because there's always a why. Like, Justin Herbert has now completed 6 seasons in the NFL, and I get that there are a million reasons why it hasn't lived up to that expectation. I just don't care anymore about that because the why is constant. It's always there. So even though you can always give me the but no longer has meaning. I keep thinking about the fact that the question marks around Patrick Mahomes are his health. And even when the Chiefs don't put anything around him, Patrick Mahomes still wins, right? So the only question mark is health. The question mark around the Denver Broncos is Bo Nix. Is he going to be able to come back, be 100% healthy? Can he continue to rise the way he did? But I mean, Sean Payton has answered so many of these questions. The question mark around the Chargers is just the Chargers. That's a much more difficult question to answer because, to your point, Caroline, it's never just the health of one guy. Last year, the offensive line changes they went through were catastrophic. I wouldn't wish that on any quarterback, but you know, the year before that, it was they don't have enough weapons here and they have injury issues on the defense. And the year before that, it was they don't have the right pieces around Herbert and they also have these problems with there's always something. Whether it's, you know, they have a coach that relies too much on analytics and doesn't put them in a situation to win. We bend over backwards to make excuses over and over and over again for why the Chargers don't live up to the expectation rather than just step back and say, you know what? They just don't live up to the expectation. So I don't care about the why anymore. I just care about the result. And until the result for the Chargers is different, I have a hard time putting my eggs in the LA basket, even though I think everything on paper looks like they should be the best team. I'm not banking on it. We did get some NFL schedule news. We're getting the release on Thursday.
They still
Carolina,
don't have the weapons.
But yeah, fair point. You're right. That's what we're going to say this year. It's weapons and health are still going to be issue. 2 teams with weapons are going to be playing in the NFL. We got the leak. The Lions taking on the Bills for the first ever game at the brand new, beautiful Highmark Stadium. That'll be Thursday Night Football on Prime. So the first Thursday night game on September 17th is going to be, as we see there from NFL on Prime Video, it's going to be a banger. Lions, Bills, how we feel about that?
It's going to be great. I mean, you've got 2 great quarterbacks facing off against each other, 2 teams with high expectations. I know the Lions had a down year last year, but I expect the Lions to be right back where they want to be, and that's in the postseason this year. So it's 2 great teams. It's 2 great quarterbacks. It's 2, recognizable brands and recognizable superstars in this league. And then in a brand new stadium, it's going to be great. It's going to have the platform. It's going to have the hype. I just think with some of the games that we've already had announced, Denver, Kansas City week 1, Dallas Giants week 1, these interdivision matchups, sometimes the NFC, AFC matchups just don't carry the same amount of weight because it's just not as consequential. Even if it's 2 big brands and 2 big quarterbacks, it just doesn't have the same kind of, levity, in my opinion, Fitzy, as great as it's going to be.
I personally love the matchup. I hate that this is on Thursday Night Football. This opening of this stadium needed to be on Sunday Night Football. I needed every Buffalo fan to be able to jump through tables starting at about 7 a.m. on Sunday morning all the way in. I feel like they put it on Thursday night just so they wouldn't have to deal with the chaotic crowd control that will come because most people are going to have to work the day before or the day of and the day after, right? So I think that they turned around and said, hey, let's put it on Thursday because that's going to be the easiest for what the day looks like. No, I needed this to be for a brand new opening of a stadium for a Super Bowl caliber team with the best fans in the NFL. I want them jumping through tables. I want every pregame show on site for that Sunday all day. I want them doing the CBS show and the Fox show and the NBC shows all from the parking lot, just absorbing the energy of Bills Mafia with things on fire all over the place and people just in weird outfits, double somersaulting through tables, getting ready for the act. We don't get that on a Thursday night. We don't get that on a Thursday night. No, most of us are going to have to go to Amazon Prime to watch this. Luckily, in Buffalo, they can still get it on local TV. I don't like the timing of this. I don't like the spot of this on Amazon. I wanted this to be Sunday night football in a big. I care less about the matchup and more about the fact that I think Buffalo fans deserved Sunday night so that they could get all day to prep for the stadium that they now get to call home that looks new and beautiful. And it's like this big, well, give them all day to celebrate, Caroline.
You are underestimating Bills fans, my friend. Because if there is any fan base who on a work day and on a school night will still tailgate all day and jump through tables and get themselves properly lubricated for a matchup and to open up a new stadium, it's the Bills. When I lived in Nashville and I was doing local sports talk radio in Nashville, the Titans played the Bills in Nashville on Monday Night Football. And at noon, when I was getting ready for my radio show, I was getting called you-know-whats from everywhere from drunk Buffalo fans. I'm not even a Titans fan. They just wanted to yell obscenities at anybody who was walking by and was listening. All of Broadway was red, white, and blue and scattered with Josh Allen jerseys. And that's a Monday in Nashville. This is a Thursday in Buffalo. Take the day off of work on Thursday and Friday and bring in Highmark Stadium the right way. If anyone can do that, it's Bills fans.
That's a fair point. Buffalo, be the city I know that you need to be. Cancel school for kids the next day. I'm just saying cancel school for kids the next day. Let's turn it into a rager as we know Buffalo will. Thank you. All right, so we'll keep you updated on more schedule leaks. The full release is going to be Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll have all of it covered for you on Friday on this very show. Coming up next, though, we got to get into some controversy because, what do you know? Lane Kiffin spoke to Vanity Fair. Keyword, vanity. We'll tell you about it next.
Myler gets the snap. Myler looks down the field. Bruce caught it! Touchdown! Owen Bruce, player of the game! Perfect throw.
Yeah, that was great
catch.
throw. Great play. Great play at a critical moment there.
Myler gets the snap. Myler looks. It's going to be a broken play. Needs to get rid of it. He does!
Oh my
it's
gosh.
caught!
Wow.
What put you over the top to like, I want to go to Indiana?
I was really close to going to a couple other schools. However, the point that really cemented me into Indiana is Coach Ignetti really focusing on development. His big selling point was, hey, I don't know, like other schools are trying to sell you on if we're going to win a national championship, if we're going to win all these games. I just know one thing I can do is develop quarterbacks.
This is insane. There were people that showed up tonight with Fernando Mendoza jerseys already, so they were a little bit nervous, but nothing to be nervous about. Remember, guys, in my lifetime as a Raiders fan, only 2 other times have they selected a quarterback in the first round. We're talking about Jamarcus Russell, who's essentially Voldemort to Raiders fans everywhere, and Todd Marinovich. But at the end of the day, it has been a long time since this fan base had a quarterback they could plant their flag with. This is why Raider Nation is so exciting.
Does Orlando win it in overtime, or does this instant classic continue? Deep drop and throw, end zone, Thomas Owens. That's an Orlando overtime winner. That is the most decorated receiver in the history of the franchise. Of course, he's the one to end it.
Shocking news. You may want to pull over if you're driving. You got to hear this. Lane Kiffin, hey, coach, we really like you, but my grandparents aren't letting me move to Oxford, Mississippi. That doesn't come up when you say Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That's Lane Kiffin in the news, which is the least shocking thing ever, but saying staggering things about the difference between recruiting at Ole Miss and recruiting at LSU, when he is flat out saying that people, parents, families, players were uncomfortable even with the concept of playing at Ole Miss because of racial undertones, and that frankly, it's something he doesn't have to deal with at LSU. Caroline, you know the SEC as well as anybody I've ever worked with in college football. What did you make of these comments?
I might say something very unpopular. It's not wrong. Like, what Lane Kiffin is saying is not necessarily inaccurate. I went to LSU. I know that community and I know the culture of the state. It's different than Oxford, Mississippi. It is much more culturally rich and it is more diverse. Now, it is diverse relative to the rest of the Deep South, okay? It is diverse relative to the rest of the southeastern portion of the United States. But I think that this is a wild thing to point out and to reference when talking about different advantages that exist at LSU versus Ole Miss. Because when we're talking about, being more culturally rich and more diverse, it sounds so ridiculous when you're talking about the differences between Mississippi and South Louisiana. Both places have a lot of work to do when it comes to being progressive and when it comes to being welcoming to all different types of people, especially when there are so many other reasons to point to for recruiting advantages that exist at LSU versus Ole Miss. There are so many other things that don't sound wildly tone deaf. Like the fact that LSU is a better football program, the fact that LSU has more of a track record of putting players in the NFL, that LSU has more championships because they have one. At least, LSU has 3 championships since the change of the millennium, and Ole Miss is still looking for their first. Ole Miss has SEC West champions hung up in their stadium. Winning the SEC West is not anything that LSU fans get overly jazzed about because there's higher expectations. And now, look, the gap has closed between these two programs. Ole Miss was just in the college football playoff semifinal, and LSU hasn't found themselves there since the 2019 season. I acknowledge that very much so. I acknowledge the record between these two teams going back and forth over the last couple of years. The gap has shifted 100%. The gap has closed between the traditional powers in college football and the non-traditional powers in college football just in general. We had Indiana win a national championship. We had Indiana beating Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. Like, we would be naive to not acknowledge that the have-nots are now the haves in college football. But if Lane Kiffin wants to talk about recruiting advantages, there are so many ways to do it that don't make you sound so wildly, ridiculously tone deaf. And then let me just go back to the beginning here, Fitzy. What is Lane Kiffin doing speaking to Vanity Fair and posing for magazine photos when he hasn't won a single game yet? He hasn't won a single game as the head coach of LSU. What has he earned? Instead of talking to the media and talking about how great you are, why don't you go ahead and show everybody?
It's a great point. And all of this conversation is going to be decided by the way he coaches. And I understand that. For me, this quote and this entire process of this segment of the Vanity Fair article was a coward's quote. Because if you are Lane Kiffin and you were dealing with these sorts of issues where players and family members are saying, I'm not comfortable playing at Ole Miss, you could have used your platform for change. You could have used your voice to try and better the situation. You could have gone to a microphone and said, here's what we're dealing with some of these recruits. We need to be better. We need to change this. I want to be part of making all of this different. You never once gave any indication while you were there of any of these issues. And in fact, you made it sound at the end like you couldn't make up your mind on what you wanted to do. And it was absolutely the most difficult decision that you've ever made for your family and for yourself. And it was agonizing. And now you get out the door, and on the way out the door, suddenly you paint the place that you were as wildly racist without taking any ownership in the fact that you never once used your platform to improve it. You never once used your platform to address it. You never once used your platform to fight for the players that did decide to play for you, even though this is supposedly part of the conversation you were having. I don't have any skin in the Ole Miss LSU game. The reason that college football is my favorite sport to cover in my career, and I've covered it for so long, is because I don't have a favorite team. So I don't care who wins or loses. It makes it electric for me to cover it. I don't have any reason to have a bias for or against LSU, Ole Miss, the SEC, the Big Ten, any of it. All I see right here, without any emotion attached to any of it, is a coach who's giving an interview in a magazine that has yet to Caroline's point, done a single thing from the sideline of his new school, yet again kicking his old school while they're down, yet again kicking his old school after he left, while also asking me to believe that it was an agonizing decision, asking me to believe that he just struggled with every ounce of it. So you struggled to say somewhere where you couldn't recruit because the perception is that the area is too racist? You struggled with that? Answer those questions. That's not what he did. This is a coward's take. This is absolutely revisionist history, and this is something that if Lane Kiffin truly had a problem with, he could have tried to change. And instead, he walks out the door and fittingly gives an interview to Vanity Fair, where he can make sure that the whole world knows that he was hindered where he was, and now he can blossom into exactly the best version of himself. These quotes are the reason that people have become so polarized when it comes to the conversation of Lane Kiffin, because ever since this Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss, LSU situation has started, Caroline, I think he's handled almost every single step of it in the worst way possible. This is a continuance of that same pattern.
I don't think he's done a single thing right. I don't think he's handled anything with a certain level of grace or class that a decision like that requires. He hasn't done, if there is a book on how to do everything in the worst possible way, he has followed it to a T. And the thing that I have learned about Lane Kiffin is he's like Tinkerbell. And if he doesn't have applause, he will die. He has to be in the conversation. He has to be butting his own opinion into everything, and he has to have the last laugh always. That's why he's doing this interview in May. It's because nobody's talking about college football, but what do we talk about today? What do we have to make sure that we got in our show today? Lane Kiffin saying something ridiculous and saying something wild. But the unfortunate truth that exists for Lane Kiffin, and really I think any coach across the country, is LSU didn't hire him because he's a good person. Lane Kiffin didn't get all of these offers from Florida and Ole Miss fans wanting him back and LSU paying him all the money that they are because he's a good stand-up guy. They did it because he's a good coach. So all of this, all of our impression and all of the way that we feel about Lane Kiffin, and especially me, I went to LSU. I've never hidden that. I am a massive LSU fan, and LSU football is my favorite team in the whole entire world. I don't like Lane Kiffin, the person. But if Lane Kiffin wins a national championship at my alma mater, I'll love Lane Kiffin, the coach. And that's all that matters here. Is that Lane Kiffin can say all of these wild and brazen things. Lane Kiffin can be letting his Twitter fingers fire and, trolling Ole Miss until the day that he dies. But as long as he wins football games at LSU, that is the only thing that's going to matter. And Lane Kiffin hasn't changed. Lane Kiffin hasn't all of a sudden become an unsavory person since he left Oxford and came to Baton Rouge. This is who Lane Kiffin has been pretty much his entire life. Yet he still continues to get money, he still continues to get job offers, and he still continues to get attention because he continues to win football games. And the unfortunate truth is, that's all that matters.
1,000%. Look, Ole Miss knew who they had. Ole Miss fans didn't care about any of the issues with Lane Kiffin until he leaves. And then all of a sudden it's like, look at that guy. He said, exactly. As long as you're winning football, I'm not naive to any of this, and I support this, frankly. Like, as long as he goes out and does his job, at the end of the day, he's doing what he's paid to do. And at the end of the day, even right now, he's creating conversation, which is part of how he chooses to business. I'm with you. I think, at some point, I've always been very willing and capable of separating the person from the work. I've had to do that my entire life as a fan of different musicians, right? Like sometimes you have to separate the person from the art they create. Sometimes you have to separate the CEO from the actual person they are. Sometimes you have to separate the company from what the people are that run it. Sometimes you have to separate the person from the coach. And as long as he wins games for LSU, nobody's going to care. And I'm not going to sit here and hold a grudge against Lane Kiffin one way or the other because of his quotes. I just think it's fair to acknowledge, in all of this, I will acknowledge he's got to win a lot of football games for LSU. The expectation at LSU is championship or bust. And if he wins that championship, nobody's going to care. But in the meantime, you mentioned earlier, he's Tinkerbell. I'm not sure at this point he isn't some version of Tinkerbell meets the Cowardly Lion, because he's got plenty to say when there's nothing that can be said back to him, and he needs that applause and that sort of affirmation. How will that come if LSU loses just 2 games this season? How's he going to feel? How's everybody going to feel about that? Maybe Lane Kiffin is wildly successful and none of it matters, but I think that we at this point just have to acknowledge that Lane Kiffin, he understands the assignment, which today is not winning football games, it's staying in the news. But if he doesn't win football games, what he's doing in the news now will come back to bite him in the butt. All right, we'll continue to cover Lane Kiffin, obviously, but coming up next, the city of Philadelphia, are they cursed? We'll figure it out, especially after that Sixers loss. Coming up next.
There were rumors that this was going to happen before the draft, that Jadarian Price was going to end up going to the Seahawks at 32. I think you can make a very strong argument that you could take Price as early as the 106. That might end up getting you in trouble, but I don't know if I feel that strongly about some of the other players in that range.
There was not many other depth charts like across the league where there's just a smooth sailing spot to that running back 1 position.
For what it's worth, this will be 3rd down at 25, just as it was in the first half. Neal, deep ball, got Williams, touchdown! 37 yards, Neal to Williams. The Wheelers back within 4.
That's the speed of Keon Williams. And Neal hooking up with him, looked his way the entire time. And when you give Keon Williams man coverage, he could beat anyone.
The truth here is this is a very far delineation from where the top of the quarterback game is right now, physically. Right. You know, when you look at, like, you call the top 12 quarterbacks, everyone's got some sort of extreme physical trump card.
This ain't Taylor Green.
Part of the problem to me with this pick is you saw exactly where the physical limitations hurt Ty Simpson last year at Alabama.
Simpson is a pretty good athlete, but I'm not going to run design runs with him because you'll get crushed.
Sunday Night Football on Yahoo Sports Network. And Cook the squib kick. Tomas across the 10, cuts it at the 15, at the 20. One guy to beat, inside the 10, cuts it back 5. He's in! He's in! Touchdown, Nighthawks!
How many fans were here today?
Nah, man, because everybody was begging for Philly to not sell the tickets and all that stuff. So, man, yeah, I used to think Philly was a sports town. I don't know if it is anymore.
Those are strong statements. I used to think Philly was a sports town. I don't know if it is anymore. One of the most passionate sports cities, at least in the eyes of most of us, had to lose their minds when they hear Josh Hart say that after the Knicks finished their sweep of the 76ers in Philly in front of predominantly Knicks fans. It's been pointed out many times that Knicks fans can afford to go up to Philly and buy tickets easier than getting into the Garden. I get it, but that's the same Josh Hart insulting Philly fans that brought a national championship back to Villanova just a decade ago. So on target or on something, Josh Hart is right. Philly is not an elite sports town, Caroline. On target or on something?
On something. Come on, everybody. Let's get real. This game was on Mother's Day. We all knew the Sixers were going to get waxed. So if you're a Philadelphia sports fan, are you going to tell your mom, hey, sorry, can't make it over tonight because I have to go watch the basketball team get clapped by 25 points? Really? Like, who's doing that? Like, there's a fair reason why New York fans literally did take over Philadelphia. Part of that is the reason why, part of what you just said. It's really hard to get into MSG. It's really easy to hop on the train from New York to Philadelphia and get into a game in Philly. So all of it makes sense. Like, let's stop acting like Philadelphia isn't one of the great, dare I say, elite sports towns in the United States. I think it's Philly. I think it's New York. I think it's Chicago. It's fans that are obsessed with their sports teams. I mean, Philadelphia, the Eagles, the Sixers, the Phillies, it's everything. It's religion. It's the Bible. Their worlds, their life revolves around sports. I just don't blame, even as great as Philadelphia fans are, I don't blame them for not wanting to watch their team get obliterated on Mother's Day, nonetheless. Let's get real. Come on.
Yeah, Josh Hart is definitely on something to me. And to me, it's so simple. Does the tone of the city change with the win or a loss? If you're just walking up and down the street, if you're going in to your local coffee shop, if you're just going in to get a slice somewhere, like if you're stopping at dinner, everywhere you go, does the tone of a city feel different depending on the way the teams are playing? And the answer to that in Philadelphia is clearly yes. It's been that for a long time, and it is clearly still that way. So yes, was this a bad look for the arena? And did the 76ers organization know it was coming? Yes. Is it a problem? Yes. Is it something that they need to try and figure out? Yes. Is Philadelphia still a sports town, one of the best sports towns in America? My God, yes. Because certainly as somebody from Vegas, I can tell you, you can walk through the streets after a Golden Knights loss or a Raiders loss, and the whole city doesn't feel like they've lost their purpose. That is not the case in Philadelphia. That's part of what makes it a great sports town. Now, one of the main reasons Philly came up short was Joel Embiid got bit by the injury bug at a bad time. Stop me if you've heard that before. Here's what the big man had to say after the game when he was asked about it. Check it out.
I still played as hard as I could. I fought hard. I tried to give us a better chance to win. Didn't happen. So I look at myself and I got to be better. Maybe I got to go to church more. So I don't have, those type of things right before the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe I'm cursed. I don't know. Maybe Philadelphia's cursed.
I love Joel saying maybe I got to spend more time in church. Plenty of sports fans probably should spend more time in church. All right, so Embiid joking there, but maybe there's some truth to it. Embiid actually on target or on something here about himself saying Philly is being cursed. What do you think?
Okay. Are we talking about all Philadelphia sports teams? Because did we just forget that the Eagles just won the Super Bowl 2 years ago and have been in the Super Bowl twice in the last 5 years? Yeah, the Phillies suck this year, but the Phillies have been a great baseball team for a long time. Look, the Sixers made the postseason this year. The Sixers just beat the Celtics. We just had Kevin Nagandi on our show last week talking about how his son could finally walk into school in Connecticut and, talk his talk to all the Celtics fans out there that have been talking their talk for so long. Are we forgetting that? Like, are we forgetting that the Sixers were not even supposed to be here in the first place, but they finished off a series against the Celtics, a team that we all thought had a very clear path to the NBA Finals? Like, no, maybe you're not cursed. Maybe you're just 32 years old and 7 feet tall. Like, maybe that's it. Like, maybe your body is just breaking down. Maybe this sport just isn't for you for the long haul. Maybe you have more basketball behind you than you do ahead of you because you're 7 feet tall and 32 years old. I don't think it's about a curse. I think he's on something there. And also, side point, quit bringing your kids to post-game press conferences after you lose. Don't use your child as a human shield against difficult questions. Leave them out of this.
If you had to put money, if you had to put every dollar you'll ever make for the rest of your life on which one of the two of us would say, don't bring your kids to the post-game press conference, you would not have put that on Caroline. Like, this is an amazing moment. I love that. Like, you would have thought that she'd been like,
protect the children.
Not be the one. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It's a fair, I love this. I'm taken aback by it. I'm also taken aback by the concept of cursed. Like, y'all, we got to stop. If your concept of cursed is all you ever do is make the playoffs, then maybe the problem isn't your team. Maybe the problem is your own expectations. I can't imagine somebody saying, ooh, I'm going to put a curse on you. And that curse on you is that you're going to see more good than bad for the next decade. And the occasional championship and some good runs and some really historic teams with some massive superstar players. Like, what kind of curse is that? Oakland's cursed. You know why Oakland's cursed? They can't keep a team. Everybody leaves Oakland, right? That's a curse. The thought of having teams leave and then win championships somewhere else, that feels like a curse. Going through the process of not even having a relevant team for decades at a time, that could feel like a curse. All right, you want to tell me no team in this city has made the playoffs in X amount. Like, again, the numbers were out there staggeringly on Pittsburgh doesn't have a playoff win in whatever, 2,800 and something days. Like, we could start to talk about curses as the teams that are just perennially always in the just bottom of the sea of suck. That is a curse. Seeing more good than bad is not a curse. It just speaks to the level of entitlement that fans have. Every time I hear a Cowboys fan say, look at how long it's been since we won a Super Bowl, I laugh. You're not special. I think what every single fan base needs to learn, hear me out, you're not special. Once we acknowledge that you're not going through some level of grief that every other city with every other fan base does, yeah, but we shouldn't have to deal with that because I'm a fan of insert team here. I don't care. The sports gods don't care. The basketball gods don't care. You're not special. Once we start to accept the fact that we're not special, now all of a sudden we don't feel cursed. We just realize that, oh my God, breaking news, it's really hard to win a championship in professional sports. If we would actually calibrate our mind to that, the reality that it's hard to do great things, maybe we would appreciate the ride along the way instead of feeling like coming up short of a championship ring suddenly equals cursed. Like, I'm sorry if you feel cursed because all that happens is your team constantly, your city constantly goes to the playoffs and is constantly one of the best in most of those sports. I'm not buying any of that cursed argument. Speaking of the Eagles, now that I've offended everybody and told them they're not special, let's pivot to Philly here. How about this? Philly will get a game Thanksgiving Day, traveling to Dallas, taking on the Eagles on target or on something. The Eagles will be atop the NFC East going into this matchup. We don't have the schedule yet, but do we feel good about Philly going in?
Yeah, I think that's on target. If I had to pick a winner of the division today on May 12th, the Eagles feel like a safe pick. Look, I don't believe in the bad vibes that have been going on in Philadelphia. I don't believe that if you just bring in an inflatable bunny that all of a sudden you can snap your fingers and everything's going to be just fine. I don't think that the relationship between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts is all of a sudden just fixed and that A.J. Brown is all hunky-dory to be wearing an Eagles uniform. But with all of that being said, the Eagles still have an elite roster. The Eagles still very much so have a team that can contend not just for the postseason, but for the Super Bowl. I have a lot of answers that need to be, I have a lot of questions that need to be answered, rather, about the Cowboys. Did you do enough defensively? Can Dak Prescott replicate the success that he had last season? Can the Cowboys be as explosive offensively as they were last season? I think the Giants are going to be improved, but that's still a very young team, and it is still a team with a brand new head coach, and there's going to be a feeling out period. Who knows about the Commanders? So if I have to put my money on it today, May 12th, then yeah, I think it's fair to say on target that the Eagles will have a lead in the division going into this game.
Yeah, look, it's on target to me that the Eagles are the best team in this division because, to your point, the vibes were atrocious last year. The vibes were awful last year. The vibes were just falling off a cliff last year. And they won 11 games, right? Like, I'll go back to something that we talked to Sal Pal on this show not too long ago, and he pointed out, hey, this is still a football team that wins a lot of football games. Does it make sense how bad it looks sometimes? No. Do I know what it's going to look like without A.J. Brown? No. I'm presuming that A.J. Brown gets traded? No. We have no idea what that's going to look like. Do we know what the new offense is going to look like under a new offensive coordinator? No, we don't. But here's the thing. There's been a lot of times over the years that we haven't really known what was coming in Philly. And the one thing that's been constant is they win a ton of football games. So to me, the concept that Philly is not going to still be right there, Caroline, even with the drama we've seen, they're used to drama. They're used to dealing with it.
Philadelphia is all drama. What did we just get done talking about? How Philly sports fans are crazy, insane psychos, and we love them for it. But if you've got a fan base that's going to boo Santa Claus, I think that this is a team that can deal with a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, booing Santa Claus will forever be part of something that we talk about with Philly sports fans, and Philly sports fans weirdly are proud of. I don't understand it, but it's part of the joy. I do know we'll be back tomorrow right here, 9 a.m. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Thanks so much for watching Yahoo Sports Daily. Come back, watch us again tomorrow. Have a great day.